We are speaking with Percy Pitzer, founder of Creative Corrections Education Foundation, along with Chef Jeff Henderson of FELON University. Mr. Pitzer, first tell us a little bit about Creative Corrections Education Foundation and why it was formed.
Well, first of all, I'm a retired warden. I worked 30 years in the system. And you know, we have over 2 million people incarcerated in America. And it's something that we have to look at why it's going that way. And we have a lot of young kids out there who have parents incarcerated, and they are 5 times more likely to be incarcerated themselves than other kids out there. We have, just in Beaumont, Texas, over 5,000 people on parole or probation or pretrial detention. And we have to work together as a community to reduce these numbers. You know, one of the biggest problems is that I don't believe the community is aware of the situation that is occurring in our country. I mean, we think that when we send a person to prison, our problem's been solved, but 95% of them are going to return to the community. And then chances are, because of the stigmatism of an inmate, nobody wants to hire them. And what happens, they end up returning back to prison. And if we can stop this cycle, I think that's a benefit to the people that are getting out of prison, and most importantly, a benefit to the community itself. And we need more community education and more community involvement in solving this situation. We can talk about prison reform all we want, but until we have community reform working together, then nothing positive can happen.
You formed a partnership with Chef Jeff on reentry. Tell us about that relationship.
Well, of course, most know that Jeff has served approximately 10 years in federal prison. He's been out about 18 years, and he's done extremely well. And he's working very strong on reentry. He's been very successful. He was the head chef at one of the restaurants in Bellagio in Las Vegas. Started off as a dishwasher, and he actually learned a lot from being in prison. That's not the same for everybody, but he took advantage of the opportunities that he had while he was incarcerated. And now look at him, he's doing extremely well, he's very successful and very well respected.
I would say extremely well is an understatement. You're a New York Times best-selling author, among other things that you've done. You've made history as a chef and in other areas. You've spoken around the world. Chef Jeff, you made it out. You became a success. So why was it important? Why is the subject of reentry so critical to you?
Well, you know, after being in prison for nearly a decade, been out of prison now for 21 years, and I felt that there was a need to really bring next level reentry programming to men and women in prison and returning citizens on the outside. I met Percy Pitzer here several years ago. I spoke at the gala, you know, to raise money for Creative Corrections Education Foundation. And I just felt that it was a perfect match. A former warden, an ex-offender, who are fighting for the same mission, you know, is to really focus on community reform. You know, we talk a lot about ending mass incarceration, 2-point-something million folks in prison, in state and federal prisons around the country. You know, there's 70 million convicted felons in this country. And we have to break the cycle, you know, and the only way to eradicate mass incarceration is tapping into folks in the community to say, hey, we need to change value systems. We need stakeholders in the community to help redirect these young kids' lives. And so that was the reason why I think that, you know, reentry became super important for me, because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of young people and folks coming out of the system as well.
And that's exactly correct. You know, here in Beaumont, we're using Lamar Institute of Technology, which is a great, great institution. And then for people getting out of prison on parole, we're using the Association of Builders and Contractors, which provides construction skills to these people so they can get a job. But one of the biggest things we have to do is educate the community and being able to hire these people. Because no matter what we do in prison, it's not going to work unless they're accepted back into the community. You know, why does people go to prison? A number of reasons. Sometimes it's poverty, sometimes it's poor parenting, sometimes it's a poor education system, and a number of reasons. But we have to look at that as a community and start working together. Even the prisons need to work better with the community that they're in so that the community gets better educated.
What would you say to business owners to convince them that former offenders are deserving of a chance?
Well, former offenders are people too. You know, not everybody in prison is good, bad, and not everybody in the community is good. So, I mean, if you look at it from that approach, you know, hiring them, I don't see it as a problem, and I've been with them for 30 years. It's something that we have to look at, and it's something that we have to consider.
And I also think, you know, with my work with FELON University, traveling the country, working with employers, is I always say, one less criminal on the street is a lesser chance of you becoming a victim of crime. You know, you have men and women who have served their time. They transformed while they were in prison. They were educated in prison. They learned skill sets in prison. Giving a second chance is not only the right thing to do, but it's a good thing to do because these people are able to help their families make a living, take care of their children, and be productive citizens in their own community as well.
You just mentioned FELON University. Please tell us about that initiative and its purpose.
It was interesting, you know, for years, I've been out of prison 21 years now, and I've been working with reentry organizations around the country. And so many people have been calling me to speak to this population. I'm a chef, I do food television. I'm like, you're supposed to be calling me to cook. Even Percy doesn't even call me to cook. He calls me to visit prisons with them. You know what I'm saying? So I decided, say, what could I do? I said, so let me create a movement. And I came up with the idea of FELON University, which is a pop-up reentry school. So I focus on decriminalizing the skill sets that men and women use when they're on the streets committing crime. Many of these people are smart. They have potential. They have great talents. It's just that they have to take the criminal out of that to be productive on the outside. So that's what FELON University is about. We also recently just launched a human resource master course where we're working with companies and organizations how to identify, recruit, and retain low-risk ex-offenders. So I'm really excited about that to help get more folks employed. And what Percy's doing in terms of the training component, which is key because his motto is producing a better ex-offender for the workplace.
Do you think that this unique partnership will make a difference, Mr. Pitzer? You having the viewpoint of an administrator, being a former warden, and Chef Jeff, you having the viewpoint and understanding of the inmate, not only the inmate, but also having tremendous success on the outside. Do you feel like the partnership that you two have formed and what each of you brings to that partnership will make a difference in changing the mindset of communities across the country?
Well, it has a very high potential of being extremely successful, but the community involvement is going to be important. You know, are the employers going to hire? Can we get corporate sponsors? Can we get company sponsors? Can we get individuals to donate to the foundation so we can fund some of these programs that we have? You know, many of the young kids, if you talk to them about success, and sometimes their interpretation of success is, I know I'm going to go to prison, but I just don't know when. So the longer I can stay out of prison, the more successful I can be. And we need to change that mindset. We can only do that through education, with the schools, with the community, and people working together as a team.
Chef Jeff, your perspective on this and the uniqueness of this partnership, you being an ex-offender, working with a warden, that's a very unusual combination.
Yeah, I would never imagine that in my life, but one of the attractions is the fact that, you know, Percy have worked in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 30 years, the private prison industry. he have seen it all from the administrative side. And I think his passion, his commitment to help make a difference was what drew me into Creative Corrections Education Foundation, and helps me better understand how I can be more effective from the former inmate perspective of helping transform the lives of these people through education and the community. As Percy said earlier, it's going to take a village to stop the high incarceration, especially of young black and brown young men across this country. So we understand the importance of education. We understand a collective group of people from law enforcement side, non-law enforcement side, faith-based, community government. We need all the help that we can, and sponsorship to help fund some of these programs.
Percy, you tell us, how can people help? How do they contact your foundation, Creative Corrections Education Foundation?
Well, there's two ways. You can go on our website, www.ccefscholarships.org, or you can call our office at 409-861-2536. And your assistance is extremely important. I am totally 100% convinced that we as a community working together can make a difference, a positive difference in our community, and we need your help.
And Chef Jeff, with what you're doing, how can people learn more about Felon University and get involved with the many initiatives that you have going on at this time?
Well, we can be reached at felonuniversity.com, and we're on Twitter as well as Felon University. Yes.
Very good. Is there anything else either of you gentlemen would like to add?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time and to help us get this interview done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackie, as well.